Good evening, everyone. Carlos Cerizete. Welcome to the 2019 Boston Marathon Wreath Ceremony. Before we begin the program this evening, I'd like to take a moment to thank the Consulate General, Stratis Efthymiou, and his entire staff, Alpha Omega President, Nick Ypsilantis, Education Committee Chair, Nick Cordes, and the entire Wreath Ceremony Committee. Peter Lamonius and Tim Kildoff, thank you for your support and for mentoring me throughout the planning process. Now, it is my honor to introduce to you from WBZ-TV, the only local television station broadcasting the Boston Marathon live, award-winning journalist and co-anchor of WBZ-TV News, Paula Evan.
John, thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. I'm Paula Evan from WBZ, your station for the 123rd running of the Boston Marathon. I'm honored to be here this evening along with CBS Boston President and General Manager Mark Lund. This for my second year celebrating what has become such a special and unique occasion, a tradition that really kicks off Marathon Weekend. Welcome to the 36th annual Boston Marathon Wreath Ceremony. Members of the Boston Athletic Association will be presented with the traditional olive wreaths from Greece that are gilded so that they can be preserved in perpetuity. As a gift, as the Consul General eloquently put it, from the first democracy in ancient Greece to Boston, the Athens of America, connecting the Boston Marathon and the ideals of democracy and liberty. And to begin the ceremony, I'd like to invite Reverend Dr. Dimitrios Tonias, the Dean of the Greek Orthodox Annunciation Cathedral of Boston, to give the invocation.
Honored guests and supporters of this most respected exhibition of human endurance, I offer you the blessings, prayers, and best wishes of His Eminence Metropolitan Methodius of Boston as we stand on the threshold of another Boston Marathon. Every marathon is a deeply personal endeavor. It involves months of grueling physical preparation and mental training. The miles test the runner's dedication, resolve, and strength. The race is a contest not so much against other runners as it is against an athlete's own weaknesses, doubts, and abilities. After more than 26 miles, the competition becomes not just about winning, but becomes about finishing. In each marathon, we see ourselves and the times we were tested, and perhaps the times when we stumbled. When we celebrate with the first runner who crosses the finish line in victory, and marvel at the last runner who struggles past the reviewing stand hours later. In this, we see the rewards in life. We see both the deserved outward crown of the winner and the inner olive wreaths adorning the spirit of determination among those who persevere, who overcome adversity, who live a life of training, a life of struggle, and never lose hope. We learn and relearn the crucial lesson that honor goes to those who look to the finish line, not to the runner in front, nor the runner behind. The marathon is, for all of us, a microcosm of our lives, and this is why it is so special, not only to Bostonians and Americans, but also to people around the world. Let us now bow our heads in prayer. We give thanks to eternal God, who is everywhere present and fills all things, who governs the universe, and as the creator of all that is visible and invisible, we pray to you and ask of you, look with kindness on your servants gathered here, and on the organizers and the participants of this great race of the Boston Marathon. Help us all complete the race of this life in honor and virtue, and guide our steps in every good work. Protect us against all evil influences, Bestow upon all of us the crowns of your glory, crowns of courage and faith, crowns of wisdom and hope, crowns of temperance and justice, crowns of love. May the virtuous light of all those who support and participate in this race shine throughout this community and in this land, and be a blessing of peace, concord, and justice to all who behold this race. For this we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Well, as we know, it all starts 26.2 miles from here in the town of Hopkinton, and every child there is well educated about the historic importance of the marathon in their hometown. Please rise as the Hopkinton Middle School Chorus will sing the Greek National Anthem and the Star-Spangled Banner.
So good evening, everybody. Mayor Walsh, Governor Dukakis, Sheriff Evangelitis, Consul General Efthymiou, the members of the Boston Consulate Corps, President O'Leary, Reverend Dr. Tonius, former winners here are joining us from the marathon, members of the Gideakidis family, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nick Ypsilantis, if you haven't got that by now, and I have the honor of being president of the Alpha Omega Council, and for thanking you all for joining us for this wonderful event this evening. I want to extend a special thank you to our legislative sponsors here this evening, Senate President Spilka, Speaker DeLeo, Senator Tarr, Representative Dykema. Of course, thank you very much to Paula Eben and WBZ, Paula for emceeing, and thank you, Mark Lund, for joining us this evening. And also, a very special thank you to our Consul General, Efthymiou, who has worked so very hard this evening, this building up to this event. It's amazing. His energy level is off the charts, I gotta be honest. So a little bit about Alpha Omega Council and our involvement in this wonderful tradition. Alpha Omega Council is an organization based here in Boston. Our mission is fellowship, philanthropy, service, and to promote the ideals of Hellenism. Our involvement with this tradition began back in 1984 when our founder, Peter Agris, worked with then Governor Dukakis and others, and the Consul General, I should say, of Greece at the time in Boston, and others, to have the winner's wreaths presented to the BAA as a gift of the Greek government. We are so very proud of this tradition, and I need to thank the Alpha Omegans who led this event. John Capellas, co-chair, many a call, right, John? Nick Cordes, I should say John Capellas, the chair, Nick Cordes, the co-chair, Peter Lamonius, the many Alpha Omegans who have joined us and has helped through this event. Of course, Tim Kilduff, and of course, the Consul General for making this night possible. So the first marathon race was run at the first modern Olympics in Greece. That race was run, and if you've got these little pamphlets here, it'll tell you all about it. This is a great thing. It was run from Marathon, Greece to Athens in tribute of the legend of Phidippides after the Battle of Marathon, some 2,500 years ago. About a year later, BAA officials attended that race and supported several runners for that race. But the next year, in 1897, the BAA hosted the first Boston Marathon on Patriots' Day as a historical acknowledgement of the citizen soldiers who fought in Marathon, Greece, and in Lexington and Concord. The Boston Marathon is now the longest continuously running athletic event in the world, and certainly one of the greatest athletic events in the world. Tonight, the Golden Olive Wreaths will be presented to the BAA by the Greek government. Tonight is also the culmination of educational efforts related to this marathon. Working with the Consul General of Greece and educators in the public schools and local universities, the Museum of Fine Arts, our state legislators, as well as nonprofits focusing on education for our youth about the ancient Greece. We helped school children understand the role of the citizenship played in preserving Athens and Western civilization 2,500 years ago, and the role it can and should play today. I offer my personal gratitude to the many people listed in that program that were handed out who have made that educational effort successful again this year. So for Alpha Omega, this ceremony is one of our favorite events and a personal favorite of mine. However, we do have one other major event. It's our annual Alpha Omega Honors Gala, which will be held this year at the JFK Library on November 16th. And I'm pleased to announce for 2019, Dr. Vamahos, who is the Chief of Trauma at Massachusetts General, will be this year's lifetime honoree, who, by the way, was in charge of the trauma and ER the day of the marathon bombings back in 2013. So it's a very historical tie. So before I close, I just wanted to recognize two individuals running this year's marathon for the Alpha Omega. They're Claire Blake from Australia and Jyothi Reddy Gandra from India. I wish them luck on Monday. More importantly, thank you all for being here. After the program, please enjoy the food and beverages provided by Saloniki Restaurants and Yarnis Distributing. And enjoy the evening, of course. Thank you.
As you can hear, every Marathon Monday, Boston hosts the world. And it is my pleasure now to introduce to you the 54th Mayor of the City of Boston, Mayor Marty Walsh.
Thank you very much, Paula, and I want to welcome all of you here to the State House. It's an honor to be here with the Consul General. I spent some time with him the other day. We had a dinner. The president of the Alpha Omega, thank you. The BAA, Tom and Dr. O'Leary, thank you very much as well, and all the staff of the BAA. Governor, it's great to see you here, and Kitty, thank you very much for being here as well. And State Representative Carolyn Dykem, I know she's here. I want to thank, I serve with Carolyn in the House of Representatives, and she's a great advocate and a strong supporter of not just the marathon, but a lot of the different programs here in the Commonwealth. And my former colleague as well, Lou Evangelitis, the sheriff. He went on to sheriff, I went on to mayor, so I think we did all right. To all the students here, thank you for being here. All these young people and the beautiful performers, thank you very much for singing both national anthems. That was amazing, so congratulations and thank you for that. The reason why I'm here today is to bring greetings from the city of Boston, but also just talk a little bit about the relationship with the Greek community and the contributions that are incredible to Boston and the world. The Greeks invented democracy and philosophy, as almost everyone in this room knows that. Greek Americans have led the way in religion and in science, in sports and music, and the list in politics, and the list continues to go on. Boston has very special connections to Greece. It's already been said, we are known as the Athens of America. Each year we host the New England Greek Independence Day Parade, which is not too far from here on Boylston Street. And this year, I think it was the biggest crowd we've ever had. It was absolutely amazing on Boylston Street. And of course, the Boston Marathon is rooted in Greek history and tradition. The marathon is one of our most beloved events that happen in our city every single year. As was said earlier, it's the oldest annual marathon in the world, 123 years, and we're proud of that. And it's a day that we open our arms and hearts to athletes, not just from Boston, but from the entire world that come to run the entire 26.2 miles, which is amazing. It's part of the legacy of being a beacon of hope for the world. In recent years, as we all know, the marathon has stood for more. Since 2013, we have turned the marathon into a movement. It's a day we show what we're made of with resilience and hope. On April 15th is called One Boston Day here. It's a citywide day of service. And it's a day we remember those we lost, and we're also going to have permanent markers on Boylston Street. You're not going to see the lights that are going to be there, but the markers are there on Boylston Street. So we'll never forget the resilience, not just of the city of Boston, but it was rooted also in the runners running down Boylston Street in every single year from that point on. The Alpha Omega Association is a great organization that's helped athletes elevate these values. I want to thank you for that. You played an important role in the marathon. In recent years, you've added an education component and empowering young people to be part of the history, and we're excited about that as well, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank and congratulate, again, all the students that are here, helping us tell stories with your wonderful essays. The marathon is a time when the connections between our countries shine the brightest. I'm very proud that we're able to keep this beautiful tradition alive, and I want to thank all of you for making today such a special day. It is the official kickoff, I guess, if you will, of Marathon Weekend, and I know that I look forward to presenting the wreaths to the champions, but every single person as they come down Boylston Street that cross that finish line, in all of our eyes as champions. So if you're running, good luck and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Consulate General of Greece is one of 8 Greek regional diplomatic missions here in the United States. And to begin the official presentation of the wreaths, it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you the Consul General of Greece in Boston, Stratos Efthymiou.
Mayor of Boston, members of Massachusetts Senate and House, representatives of the Consular Corps, Governor Dukakis, Minister Christodoulakis, Sheriff Evangelidis, Father Tonias, honorable guests, it is an honor to have you here with us. As I was reflecting on the meaning of today's ceremony, my thoughts went to 2 individuals. The first is a new friend of our community. His name is Nam Phan, a Vietnamese refugee to the United States who rose through the ranks of Massachusetts Senate government to become Assistant Secretary of Business Development and Trade. His journey reminds us the story of other communities who found their place in this very special and diverse tapestry, which is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Nam Phan was at the Consulate General of Greece last Friday, and he offered remarks on the occasion of our Independence Day. And he moved me tremendously when he said that Greece for him is and will always be the country that has provided human treatment to refugees, and also the country that gave birth to the ideas of freedom, of democracy. Dear friends, I feel very privileged to serve here in Boston, in the Athens of America, Greece, the cradle of ideas of philosophy, democracy, dialogue, ethics, drama, politics. These ideas were conceived and developed in Athens, and there they were tried and tested and survived, becoming part of the world's heritage. And they became part of our universal heritage thanks to the Battle of Marathon, thanks to the resilience, to the civic impulse, to the democratic duty, and to the free citizens of Athens. Free citizens who prevailed against tyranny, who prevailed against the overwhelming forces of tyranny, securing thus the model of democratic governance as we know it and as it was developed. Dear friends, I'm very grateful to the Boston Athletic Association and to the Alpha Omega Council for their continuous help. I would like to recognize Governor Dukakis and Kitty, Governor Dukakis as governor in 1984 took the steps to initiate this beautiful tradition, and he was a little boy when he was Stylianos Kyriakidis winning the 1946 marathon. I thank Mayor Walsh for his stewardship of this unique city, which has played such an important role in the political and constitutional history of the United States. Today, dear friends, we connect the Boston Marathon to its roots. And when we reflect on this exercise of human resilience and determination, my mind goes to a second individual, the 1946 marathon winner Stylianos Kyriakidis, a legendary athlete whose goal was to win the Boston Marathon in order to draw the world's attention to the condition of Greece after World War II. He was physically weak from the famine, but despite the doctor's warning, he ran, and not only he ran, but he ran and he won. And in doing so, he became the first charitable runner, an athlete who ran for a cause bigger than himself. His act inspired the world and created generations of charitable runners. This individual example of Kyriakidis is powerful because it shows us the impact that a single citizen can make in a democracy. This is also the message of the Boston Marathon, especially after the tragic events of 2013. A message of individual and collective defiance, resilience, and civic engagement. We remain strong, we won't bend, we will protect our liberties, and we will promote our ideals. Thank you.
I'd like to invite the president of the Boston Athletic Association, Dr. Michael O'Leary. At this time, the Consul General will present the wreaths from Greece to the BAA president to be used to crown the winners of the Boston Marathon.
Boston Athletic Association President, Dr. Michael O'Leary, it is my great honor to present you the 4 wreaths from Greece on the occasion of the 2019 Boston Marathon. Welcome.
Consul.
I think we should also have the mayor.
Yes. I won't drop it. I'm used to it now. I won't drop it. Steady hands.
Maybe we'll see here.
I was always trying to spike this one. Now I know.
And this is for the governor.
Is the microphone running? Thank you very much. It's a real honor for me to be here representing the BAA. This is an extraordinary tradition. Governor Dukakis, a great pleasure to see you. Mayor Walsh, Consul Estimiou, President Ypsilantis, thank you very much for inviting us. Of the many enduring symbols that Greece has given the world, this has got to be one of them, the laurel wreath. But I wonder if you know what the origin of the laurel wreath is. The laurel wreath is associated with the god, students, anybody? Apollo. But that's only half the story. The other half of the story, which is more intriguing, is that Apollo was enamored of the river nymph Daphne, whose father was Ladon, the river god. And then there was this guy Eros in between, who's known as Cupid in the Roman tradition. And Apollo had great disdain for Eros because he was a little guy and he shot arrows. Apollo was a big guy And he shot arrows too, but with much more meaning, at least as far as he was concerned. So Eros always had this thing for Apollo and determined to get even with him. So he shot Apollo with a golden arrow to instill burning desire for Daphne, and he shot Daphne with a lead arrow to cause revulsion of Apollo. Most of you Greeks should know this story. It's wonderful mythology. So Apollo relentlessly pursued Daphne, who equally relentlessly opposed his pursuit, until finally she got so tired of it that she asked her father, Ladon, to turn her into a tree, which is what happened. He turned her into a laurel tree. And as you all know, laurel leaves, they never wilt. And Apollo was crushed, but he vowed to wear a laurel wreath for the rest of his life in tribute to Daphne. And that's where the laurel wreath comes from. And I think the first athletes that were given were actually in the Pythian Games, which is part, I think to this day, the Pythian Games still exist? They were done at Apollo's temple in Delphi. But anyhow, the Olympic Games is where they're best known. And that's the tradition that comes to us today. And the BAA is proud to be the beneficiary of Greece's friendship and honored to extend this tradition of the laurel wreath, which will be awarded to the winners on Monday. And as was said earlier, I think all of the people who cross the finish line on Monday are winners, and maybe particularly so this Monday, because we're expecting another day of potentially difficult weather, but we know our athletes are prepared and they'll get through it. But I thank you for this great opportunity and this wonderful tradition. It's always one of the highlights of the year to begin the marathon weekend. Thank you.
I'd like to ask the Consul General, President Nicholas Ypsilantis, Tim Kilduff, and CBS Boston President Mark Lund to come forward for a special presentation.
Hi, Governor. Mr. Mayor, Michael, I'm going to go off script. Okay. You'll keep me out of trouble. I mean, you'll keep me out of trouble. But you know, a couple of years ago, you know what happened in Boston? The Boston Athletic Association did exactly what they should have done. They paid attention to the race and returned it to not only to its strength, but it's far exceeded that. The chief executive officer of the Boston Athletic Association is here. He's going to be very upset with me, but he deserves a round of applause, and that's Tom Groke. So, Mark, pretty simple symbol here, but there's another iconic symbol in Boston. WBZ-TV, CBS 4, everybody in this room knows who that is. But what they don't know a lot about the leadership of that particular institution. Mark Lund is a believer in community. Yes, he knows how to deliver the news. Yes, he knows how to deliver programming. But most importantly, he understands the importance of community. This particular symbol, Mark, is from an olive tree in Marathon, Greece. It's an actual real living thing that's been processed and then dipped in 24-karat gold. But I want you to know a little something about WBZ's Boston Marathon coverage. It is, as somebody mentioned earlier, the only local station that covers the Boston Marathon from point to point. But I can attest to the fact, at least in my opinion, and I think the opinion of race organizers, that WBZ's Boston Marathon coverage is some of the best in the world, and I am not exaggerating. And it's because they have a leader like Mark Lund, who provides the resources for his team to be able to deliver that coverage. So get out on the course, watch the runners come by, but TV4, CBS 4 Monday, the best place to watch the Boston Marathon. Mark, on behalf of the Consul General of Greece and the Alpha Omega Council, I'm really pleased to be able and privileged to be able to present this olive branch from Marathon Greece to you and to WBZ for your community spirit.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. If I could just say a quick word, Tim, I want to say thank you for everything you do and the Spotters Network does to provide us with all that information throughout the race coverage. It's amazing what you and your team do. I certainly also want to thank my good friend Tom Grilk, CEO of the BAA, and really Dr. Michael O'Leary and the entire BAA board for the trust that they put into us to cover this, the race. It's just an amazing honor and amazing privilege. And to be able to tell all these stories of perseverance and resilience and triumph, it's something that we take very seriously. And we're going to have over 100 people out there in the rain covering the race again on Monday, and it's really, truly a labor of love. So on behalf of everybody at WBZ, I just want to thank you very much and tell you how appreciative we are. And I've actually been to Greece, I've been to Santorini, I've been to Mykonos, and what a special Athens and what a special and amazing country Greece is, and I hope to get back there someday. So thank you, and good luck to everybody on Monday.
This is why we become broadcasters, because we have big voices. So we'll compensate over the microphone here. The next part of the program is very special because at WBZ, part of our community commitment is we have an ongoing series called Eye on Education. And in the wake of the bombings at the marathon in 2013, the Consul General and the Alpha Omega Council launched the Marathon Education Initiative to promote civic responsibility and liberty. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Nicholas Cortes, who is the education chairman for the Alpha Omega Council, to present the results of this year's essay contest.
Just project, okay, so we'll skip this. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Cortes of the Alpha Omega Council, and I would like to introduce the winners of the 2019 Marathon Essay Competition. Since 2013, the Alpha Omega Council, in concert with the Greek Consulate of Boston, has chaired a committee, all named in your program, to present to middle school students the importance of ancient Greek history, and especially of the Battle of Marathon. This initiative organizes educational activities, such as classroom presentations by university classics and political science professors. And this year, over 26 classroom visits by the Museum of Fine Arts on-site school outreach program. Just before tonight's ceremony, Representative Carolyn Dykema and the Office of Senate President Karen Spilka met with these students and their families for a special State House tour. Our goal here is to spark interest in questions like, how did the ancient Athenians understand their citizenship? How is it similar and different from our understanding of citizenship in America today? Professor Jay Sammons of Boston University, who is one of our speakers, wrote something very interesting in his book, What's Wrong with Democracy? From Athenian Practice to American Worship. Professor Sammons' thesis is that in America, too often, we worship democracy, but we do not think about it and we do not practice it enough. We assume we will always have a democracy, when most of the people in the world do not. When Athenians voted to go to war to defend their democracy against the Persians, they were voting to send themselves to war, their brothers, their fathers, their sons. Are we fully participating as citizens in the war and peace decisions that are being made in our country today? What are the obligations of citizenship? in addition to the rights of citizenship? What kind of democracy do we want? The earlier our young people wrestle with these questions, the better our country's future will be. Now on to the essays, 12 of which were selected for special recognition out of nearly 1,000 essays that were submitted. There are excerpts from each essay in your program. Each of our essayists will receive a wreath award crafted in Greece, a certificate signed by the Consul General of Greece in Boston, a book published by the consulate with wonderful photos of Greece taken by the famous American photographer Robert McCabe, and a personally signed copy of the book Running with Phidippides, the story of Styrianos Kyriakidis, the marathon miracle, that was written by our own Bostonians here, Nick Siotis and Andy DeBillis. And I think Nick Siotis, I think I saw Nick in the room. Nick, are you here? This is Nick. Thank you, Nick, for writing that wonderful book and continuing that legacy for all of us to have. So Consul General Efthymiou and I will greet our students and present them with their awards. Students, you should be proud of the effort you made to research and write this essay worthy of special recognition. We hope this is the first of many awards you receive as you continue your studies. So I'm going to...
Before you start the names, if you want to thank the before you start the list of names, we can ask either one.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to call you up in one moment. We're going to let the BAA leave now to continue their work and plan our marathon for Monday. Mr. O'Leary, thank you very much. Dr. Orca, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. If I go right up against the mic, it will work. Good. Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to call each student up by alphabetical name, and I'm going to ask you to come and acknowledge and reward your outstanding efforts. So let's please hold our applause until all of the students have been called. I'm also going to say just a little bit about each student, that they're interesting. Okay. So our first winner is Alexander Cashin from Ashland Middle School. Congratulations. I was going to take a picture with her. Our second winner is, this is in alphabetical order. There was, all of these 12 essays were tied for first, as far as we are concerned. Marisa DePina from Boston Latin Academy. Congratulations. This is a gift from the Consul General, and we're going to take a picture. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. I left out the most important part. Alexander. Alexander likes to read, play baseball, and do outside things, such as hiking. He hopes to work in a field of science when he grows up, specifically a job working with animals or a paleontologist. It's important. Marisa has always wanted to win a famous award. So this is the beginning of that route. She loves dancing, but she still needs to practice. She's not sure what she wants to be when she grows up, but maybe a lawyer or an actress. Good luck. Our next winner is Rachel Dunn from Ashland Middle School. Congratulations, Rachel. There's a gift from us. Rachel enjoys playing soccer, lacrosse, and basketball, and she hopes one day to be a successful businesswoman or do some kind of work within the law. It's a trend here. Okay. Our next winner is Sophia Gargiulo from Boston Latin Academy. Congratulations, Sophia. Excuse me.
Thanks.
Can I take a quick picture? Sophia likes to do gymnastics, and when she grows, she'd like to have a job that saves animals that need help. Our next winner is Shu Yu Guan from the O'Brien School of Science and Mathematics. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Our next winner is Fiona Keegan McGlynn from Boston Latin Academy. Congratulations, Fiona. Fiona's interests are playing basketball, traveling, and spending time with friends. She aspires to be a lawyer at the federal level. So animals and lawyers so far. Veterinarians and lawyers. Okay. Anushka Nair from Hopkinton Middle School. Congratulations. That was an excellent message. Anushka likes reading, drawing, and doing other kinds of art and playing the piano. When she grows up, she'd like to be a robotics engineer or a journalist. Our next winner is Anna Passion from Ashland Middle School. Congratulations, Anna. Anna likes to draw, and she's also a national-level saber fencer. When she grows up, she would like her work to be connected to art. Congratulations. Sophia Schneider from the O'Brien School of Mathematics and Science. Congratulations. Congratulations, Sophia. Sophia likes art and would like to be a veterinarian. Okay. Our winner from Hopkinton Middle School, Ioana Salibas. Ioana enjoys playing soccer, reading, especially historical fiction, and anthropological studies. In regards to her future plan, she would like to incorporate her interests in writing and knowledge of ancient cultures. Congratulations. Okay. Ashwath Sridhar is our next winner from Hopkinton Middle School.
Let's show what it is. This is from Greece. Congratulations.
Ashwath enjoys playing sports. He spends a lot of time drawing and reading. He would like to study law and eventually become a politician to help make the world a better place. Very good. And last but not least is Ruo Ying Wu from the O'Brien School of Science and Mathematics. Ruo has always loved debate and writing statements for classroom conversations. She's interested in either writing or law school. She loves creating stories like the ones in Greek mythology, but at the same time, the civil and criminal cases I read about in real life are very interesting. They seem like clashing aspirations, writing and law, but for now, I think I will pick the occupation of a lawyer. So I want to say congratulations to all our winners. We should all be very proud and happy and encouraged. Thank you.
Let's see if this works.
We're going to try one more. Oh, a little bit better. While the student winners are taking photos, I'd like to introduce and ask Worcester County Sheriff Lou Evangelitis to come say a few words. I'm told he's referred to affectionately as the High Sheriff of Worcester County.
Maybe I can grab the mic, it'll be a little bit easier. Consul General, the Alpha Omega Council, Governor Dukakis, distinguished guests, thank you so much for joining us today on this really special day. And, you know, I figured I might get this out of the way since a lot of you are wondering about it, but I stand here today as a proud Greek American, but I also stand here today at 6 feet 7 inches tall. So, and I am taller than Governor Baker, if you were wondering. As he often says, I remind him. But, you know, as we got a chance to hear about the greatness of what we're celebrating today, as I said, as a proud Greek, the great heritage of the Greek people, and we are very, very proud of our heritage and the ideas of democracy and philosophy and music and literature and all the greatness. And Governor Dukakis here, and we even have an NBA player, the Greek Freak now, and we've got a lot to be proud of. But the legacy of today and the marathon is one of the great legacies of the Greek culture that we are so proud of to give into the world, and the Boston Marathon, as we are here today to celebrate. And as someone who grew up in that culture, I always wanted to be able to run the Boston Marathon, and I had a chance to do it on 2 different occasions. And as many people would say to me, how did you do? I always said, I always won the 6 feet 7 inch and over class, because not a taller person has ever passed me in a marathon. So I'm proud of that slight victory I have. But the marathon itself is such an incredible legacy. For any of you who have run in it, I just want to say that it's one of the most special moments of my life. To be in that marathon, to be with those people, to have that incredible feeling of joy. And when that event happened in 2013, I'll tell you what, anybody who'd been in the race, to all of us as a community, we'll never forget the feeling we had. But what it really showed at the end of the day is that Boston is bigger than anybody could do to us. They could never take the spirit of that great marathon away from us. And that's the joy that this event continues to bring to us as a people. And as a Greek American, we are very, very proud to have that prominent role. As we all know, when we're growing up, we're always told the story of Phidippides and him running to bring the news of the victory over the Persians to the people of Athens. We're often reminded if it was not for that victory, it's quite possible that the greatness of democracy that we celebrate and treasure in America today may not even exist in the form it exists, but for that connection. So I just want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity to address you today. Thank you for joining us. And this marathon means a lot to this community, and we are very proud as Greek Americans to have our role in it as so many other things. Thank you very, very much.
Now please join me in welcoming the longest-serving governor in the history of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks very much. Thank you. First, I have an apology to make to all of you. Kitty and I always walk in that Independence Day parade. And it was Sunday, as all of you know. Difficult though it is, in December we drag ourselves out of New England. And I teach at UCLA in Los Angeles. It's a tough thing to do, but somebody's going to do it. And this was our 24th winter quarter out there. We came back on Saturday, only to discover at Los Angeles Airport that our flight had been canceled. We finally made it to Logan about 12:15 in the morning, got into bed about 3. And I thought I was asking a little too much for my dear wife to go out and walk in that parade. So we'll be back next year, and we'll make sure that we leave Los Angeles at least 2 days early so we can do that parade, because we always have a wonderful time. It's great to be here with Kitty and to join in what is a very, very special celebration. And I'm very grateful to the mayor, Lou, you, and to so many others. Tim, who's working hard on a museum that will celebrate this event on a permanent basis, and I hope we'll help him to do that. It's a terrific undertaking, and so many of you who have come here. This is a very special day for Kitty and me, and some of you have heard this story, but it's well worth telling again. We were both Brookline kids. I was a senior at Brookline High School. She was a freshman. I wasn't interested in freshman women, and I was very interested in one of my fellow seniors, who years later introduced us and is one of our dearest friends. But I was a pretty good athlete. I loved history. I knew about Pheidippides when I was about 6, and that wonderful story. And when I was 12, and some of you have heard this story before, when I was 12, I was in Kenmore Square when Johnny Kelly and Stylianos Kyriakidis were running neck and neck in that race. And we Greek Americans were torn because John Kelly was a wonderful guy. And by the way, as governor, was extremely helpful to me with our senior citizens and our programs for them. But Kyriakidis was Greek. And was lucky to be alive in 1946. He had run the race, he had been part of the Greek team in Berlin in 36, and he had come here to run the marathon in 1938. And we were all excited and waiting for him. He made the mistake of buying a new pair of shoes, got blisters, and had to drop out at the 16th mile. And I was down, I remember, I was just a little kid, I was, what, 4, down at the Lenox Hotel. We were waiting for Kyriakidis. Where is he? Where is he? Finally got out of a cab. These was better than Rosie Ruiz. But next time you're on the marathon, folks, get a pair of shoes that are well broken in. But it was an ambition of so many of us. And I was a senior at Brookline High School. I'd run cross country. And my buddy Buzz Wiseman and I decided that this was probably the last time we were going to be able to run this thing, because he was going away to school and I was going away to school. So we better run it in our senior year. Now, we had to adjust our age a little bit. Don't tell anybody. I value my reputation for integrity, and I had to kind of tell the BAA that I was born in 1932, not 1933, to make it, because there was an 18-year requirement. And there was no shoe made in those days, folks, to run on hard surfaces. The world-class runners used to go to shoemakers to get their custom-made shoes, but we weren't in that category. So Wiseman and I ran that race, 26 miles, 385 yards, in low-ked sneakers, literally. And there was a record field of 300. Everett had 300 runners. Today it's, what, 30,000, you got to qualify. So out we go to Hopkinton, and the international runners were just beginning to come to the Boston Marathon in numbers. And there were 4 Japanese runners, and we're sitting there kind of waiting for the race to start, and they're doing wind sprints up and down the road. But we're in pretty good shape. We'd had a good cross-country season. I played basketball, if you can believe it. You must have been a basketball player. Were you? But when I played it, two-handed set shots and underhand free throws. I mean, I come back to that. I was a back guard, as they used to call us. But I was in pretty good shape, and so was Wiseman. So we go out to Hopkinton with 300 other people and start running, and we were doing pretty well. I mean, we averaged at 6:50 a mile for the first 10 miles, waved to all the Wellesley girls and all that kind of stuff. But by the time we got to the Newton Hills, I was beginning to feel a little bit, and part of the problem, folks, was that we knew nothing about exercise science. I mean, you never drank water during a cross-country race, but that was 2.5 miles. By the time we got to the Newton Hills, I was really getting thirsty. And somebody handed me half an orange. It was the most delicious orange I've ever tasted. But then it developed a terrible thirst. And by the time we got to Beacon Street in Brookline, where half the high school was out waiting for us, I was dying of thirst. And in those days, sorry about these stories, but you know, when you get to be in your 80s, you start telling a lot of stories. We used to have drugstores with soda fountains. And as half the high school was out there waiting for us, saying, how you feeling, how you feeling, I was saying, I'm dying of thirst, get me water. So with all these Brookline High School kids running in and out of these drugstores, there was a Brigham's on Beacon Street, the old ice cream shops. And Kitty was a freshman and lived on Beaconsfield Road, just a block and a half from Beacon Street, and ran into the Brigham's and got me a cup of water and gave it to me. I don't remember it, but she does. And that was the first time we met. And we'll be celebrating our 57th wedding anniversary in June. So this is pretty special for us. And just to underscore what Lou said, I don't have to tell you folks how proud we are of our heritage. We can be a little, I'm not sure we're obnoxious about it, but people know we're Greek. We make sure they do. And one of the things that I hope we'll remember is history. You know, the Greeks have an old saying, pathima mathima. Things happen, we're supposed to learn from it. That's why we study history. And we were very lucky to have Stylianos Kyriakidis with us in 1946. I don't know how many of you know what happened to him. He was a Cypriot that had moved his family to Athens. And he and his family lived through the occupation. There was a very strong Greek resistance, as all of us know, and the Nazis, in retaliation for resistance attacks, on Sundays would swoop down on a particular neighborhood in Athens, send the women and children home, pick up all the men, bring them into custody, and hang them in the afternoon so Greeks coming to work the following day would see these folks. And Kyriakidis was one of the men that was picked up. Fortunately, he had his identification card from the 1936 Olympics, which, remember, was celebrated in Berlin. And when he was being questioned by a German officer, told to take all of his possessions and throw them out in front of on the table in front of him, that card was one of the things that happened to be out there. And the German officer picked it up and said, "What's this?" And he said, "Well, I was a member of the Greek marathon team in 1936. And that was my..." The officer looked at it, finally said, "You can go home." If it hadn't been for that, folks, he would have been one of those Greeks hanging in that square. Came back in '46. As you heard, the doctors were very concerned about him and his condition. Didn't want him to run. Finally, I think it was George Demeter, who was a Republican state representative from the Back Bay, who was with him and said, "I'll vouch for him." And he began running, and running that historic race. And just as he came down Beacon Street from Brookline crossing to Boston, of course, there was no TV, folks, there were no transistor radios, there was no nothing. So all of us want to know, who is it? Who is it? Who's leading? And the word came down, Kelly and the Greek. Kelly and the Greek. And just as they went through Kenmore Square, Kyriakidis moved out to about a 10-yard lead in front of John Kelly and finished that race and won. I don't have to tell you, the Greek community was just beside itself. And he stayed in the United States for several months and went back with billions of dollars worth of relief supplies for a Greece that was starving at the time because of the conditions that they had to live through during a terrible Nazi occupation. Quite a history, a great tradition. and one that I hope we as Greek Americans will take very seriously. One of the things that I'm concerned about these days, and I'll finish up with this, is that I'm not seeing enough young Greek Americans getting deeply and actively involved in politics in this country. Well, we had about 4 or 5 Greeks in the legislature when I was here. And that's true nationally. We've got a history and a tradition to be proud of and to uphold. And I was a little concerned, love the awards, love these folks that do these essays. A few too many who want to be lawyers, and not enough who want to be public servants. So I hope one of the things that we will do, inspired by this gathering here and by this great race, is to encourage young Greek Americans to get deeply and actively involved in the politics of their community and state and country. Those of us who have had that opportunity will tell you there's nothing like it. To be in a position where you can make a difference in the lives of your fellow citizens is a very special, special thing. And I'm serious. I hope we'll we're trying to do that in our own family. Kitty and I have 8 grandkids of our own and 4 that we inherited, so we got 12 of them. One of them just had his 15th birthday. His name is Peter Dukakis. Keep your eye on him. He's a great student. He's a hell of a hockey player in Newton, and he's very, very political. We have great hopes for him. In any event, thank you all very much for being a part of this. Great to be with you.
Governor, I promise you, the fact that you were not 18 years old does not leave this room. You don't tell the BAA, we won't tell the I team. So, you never heard that. There's plenty of time for you to take photos with the wreaths, which will be up here on the stage. And please enjoy the reception, as has been mentioned before. Greek food supplied by local restaurants. My favorite food, don't tell my Irish relatives that. And thanks so much for being here. We wish all of you a wonderful Marathon Monday. Stay dry, and if you're inside in the rain, watch the race on WBZ TV. We'll see you Monday. Thank you.